Hey visionaries, Chris right here with Royal Realty Group, brokered by eXp Realty. Buying and selling a home can be a stressful process, but we are here to help you throughout the way. Feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms at Royal Realty Group TX. Now enjoy the show with Cuff and Mo.
So hey, how long you been in Dallas?
Man, a little bit over 20 years now. Okay. And I was born in El Paso, and then we moved out here. My whole family, actually, mom, uncle, aunts, a big family unit, stayed close. And I pretty much grew up in a small little suburb called Mansfield. It was the last segregated suburb in all of Texas. So you know how that goes. But despite that, grew up with really great positive influences. One of my homies over there, Aaron's been in my life for about 11 years. So I've known him for a long time, having those connections, growing up with those kind of people that, really relate to you in that aspect, kind of help drive you in your future as well.
100%. You know what I mean? And we're going to get into that. But shout out to Aaron. Actually, he was kind of the reason that that you're on the show. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. But, you talked about having positive people in your corner. Here in the Vision Lab, we always talk about what it takes to be successful, right? And obviously there's a laundry list of things that we all need to incorporate in our lives. But what are some of the core tenets that you look for or that you have that helps make you who you are today?
I think a lot of people these days lack work ethic, as cliche as that may be. Mostly my generation. I think they think that a lot of things are a get-rich-quick scheme, and they want to make money the fast way, and that goes into things like crypto, that goes into things like even real estate, it goes into things like drop shipping, e-commerce. They want to make money fast, and they think it's sustainable that way. You can make money quick, but it's about hanging on to it, I think is the key there. And I think that's what differs with a lot of people these days.
See, and that's what I love about him. He's got this really cool demeanor about him. He's real, swaggy, and I love that. But you got a really strong head on your shoulders, right? I don't think it's just necessarily your generation, right? I think it's people in general with the influence of social media, commercials, and TV. Everyone thinks that they can. Just because they show up, they get a chance to be rich, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm in this weird space right now where, like the first quarter of 2022, I'm just been focused on getting my mental right and obviously my physical and spiritual right. Marshawn likes to say, get your chickens right. You know what I mean?
Get your chickens.
You got to get your chickens right. And so
always.
Through this journey, what I've learned about myself is, you got to show up, right? Mm-hmm. That's part of it. But you're not owed anything, I don't remember how the saying goes, but just because, you show up doesn't mean that everything's going to fall into place for you. It's about working hard. It's about actually failing. We talk about this a ton on the show.
Well, we don't believe in failure. We believe in lessons.
Right, 100%.
We win or we learn.
And we've had a lot of lessons through the podcast, but obviously in real estate, some of the things that we're doing. But, beyond that, what are some misconceptions about, being successful that, like you said, hey, you think just because you show up, you're going to be wealthy or whatever?
I think there's a strong line between people that they want to appear successful and actually being successful. And that's, a lot of people are fine just appearing to be successful, but I think the real comfortability and stability just in general is that true success and building that wealth for the long term. And I think if you can consistently come in and day out and build for the future that you want, write down your goals. It sounds tacky. Everything's going to sound cliche, but it's because this stuff works.
And this is what you're doing.
This is what I do every day.
Okay.
Every year. You said getting your mental right. Last year, first week of the year, I took a solo trip to Cancun.
Nice.
Did some writing, focused on what we were going to do with the business, and it completely set the tone for the year. And it was a great year last year.
Yeah.
And so just doing those kind of things that help you personally set yourself up for the future and others around you, because it's going to come down to the team that's around you as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be a huge factor.
I mean, a lot of people, we've done this in the past. We do it. Hell, you got your book right in front of you.
You know, this book goes everywhere. And this is the third one of the Vision Lab podcast, I believe. Yeah, it's the third one.
But I mean, it's important to write things down. I like you said, it sounds cliche, but if wealthy people are doing it, and let's say you're not wealthy, why would you not do it?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like study the winners.
Yeah.
Yeah, success leaves clues. I mean, it's a pretty famous quote, but it truly does. And especially in real estate. I know we're going to get into that eventually, but the whole blueprint is there.
Yeah.
You know, it's fail-proof. It's where almost 25% of all wealth is created. And then even people with billion-dollar portfolios, it's usually a good chunk of it is some form of real estate,
100%.
whether it's commercial or residential. They own a lot of it. So I saw that very early in my life. I was bartending at a restaurant called Paso, and
hey, my man, I
yeah,
worked there too at one
love
point.
Paso, bro.
Yeah.
Love it. I still go there. No hate on Paso, but it's bartending. I saw a guy flipping houses that was bartending as well, and they were making good money. I was like 21, 22, and I wanted to get into it. He said, "Man, go get your license. You don't need your license to make money in real estate, but it was the first step I took."
Okay.
And that's kind of what propelled me forward into just being on the investment side. And then that's, you know, push come to shove, you don't want to do the residential stuff, signs in the yard, there's always the investment side. It's going to be more gritty. You're going to have a lot more hours, but you're going to make more money in it for sure. So.
Absolutely. Cuff, can I formally introduce our guest? Cuff, today's guest, as you heard, is a native of El Paso. He's been here in DFW for the last 20-some-odd years. He is the co-owner of Lendmore Capital. He's also the co-owner of FWE Invest. He's a musician as well. Please welcome Matt Campos to the Vision Lab podcast.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much.
What
Appreciate
up,
y'all.
man?
Appreciate
Hey,
y'all.
No problem, man.
We're going to have a lot of fun during this interview. I'm excited. Like I said before, let's get into how we met.
Yeah,
right? So,
absolutely.
You know,
You made an impression because he called me the next day and was like, "Hey, I got another guest for us," and he was going a mile a minute. That's
Yeah.
not how he normally talks.
That's the management team over there.
But he was ready to
Behind
go.
the
I was like,
scenes.
"Okay, let me get my book right now. Hold on a second."
it was dope, man. So, you know, it's cosmic, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
we have an event through Dallas Cigar Week. Shout out to DCW. That we're doing at Clover Club in downtown Dallas, right? And so we're out there, and part of my task in this particular role was to, you know, collect tickets and
Okay.
at the door, you know, basically a doorman or whatever. So our event's winding down. Aaron walks up. I'm like, "Okay, are you here for the event?" And he's like, "No, I'm waiting on my homeboy showing up. He's got a music video." And I was like, "Yo, that's kind of fire."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, okay. So I'm interested, right?
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. And so, you know, whatever, 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, you pull up and I see, what kind of car was that?
It's a 2022 C8 is the Corvette.
Sick. It was sick.
It's a rental, by the way. I'll shout the rental company out at the end, but
Oh, you out there stunting.
man. It was. Oh yeah, I had to for the video. That's all it is these days. That's
For
all
sure.
it is.
Yeah. So obviously I'm like, okay, I see what time it is. I saw when you pulled up, and I saw the Lisa rental vet pull up, and I'm like, yo, okay, let me see what they're talking about. I wanted to just see, like, how often have you been involved or seen a music video, you know what I mean,
In real time.
in real time as they're recording it. So obviously I'm interested, and the beat was fire.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the video in a little bit,
Yeah.
but and we'll probably get Adam, or, you know, to drop a link or drop some of the video.
Much
in there.
appreciated.
For
Much
sure.
appreciated.
But, you know, so we ended up in Clover Club, and I see what's going on, and you know me, bro. I mean, it is what it is. I'm type A personality,
Yep.
Leo dominated all day long. You
Yep.
know what I mean? So I'm like, yo, if I'm y'all and I'm directing this is kind of what I would do.
Yep.
And I just
You
step
did.
in, and
You did too.
Matthew was like, okay, yeah, let's do that. And he didn't have an ego, and it was just really like this dude that was like, hey man, I appreciate you trying to help. So I'm gonna ride with you. I'm gonna
Yeah.
rock with you and see what you got going. So we just started chopping it up.
We used a
and-
lot of that too.
Yeah,
we used
I
a lot of
know.
that film.
It was
that
good.
we weren't even. It wasn't even in the read through. It wasn't in anything. We threw that together in like 2 days.
Yeah, it was dope.
Everything. So that was completely organic. That we ran into each other as well, and it
Yeah.
worked out that way. So
And
it was awesome.
I think it's cosmic, right? And you know, I'm a believer, so you know, I believe that God put us there for a reason. And
Absolutely.
I think that there's going to be some things that, you know, transpire later on down the road. But man, what is that like for you? I think that you're a Renaissance man, right? You're involved in a lot of different things, but how do you kind of parse out what I'm going to focus on, whether it's real estate, investing, my music background? Like, where does all that come from? How do you separate it?
There's a saying that says, if you are, at the end of the day, if you're tired, if you're lazy after work, whatever your normal job is, you're actually not tired or lazy. You're actually just uninspired. And I was living like that for a long time. I'd punch in, punch out, even with the business. I'd punch in, punch out. 5 o'clock, I was done. I'd sort through emails, texts, whatever, but I was uninspired. And I can't remember what song I heard. It was about 2 years ago. It was like, I need to start creating music again. It's been a minute. And I did that for that full year last year after that trip to Cancun. And it kept me going. It just kept me inspired, even in the business side of things, because it reminded me of what I could do on the music side of things. And really, 9 to 5 business, 5 to 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning.
We believe in that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I split it up like that. I try not to mix it during the day. I feel like the business hours are very important, just to focus on that business stuff. But the weekends and evenings, all music, all the time. Whether I'm mixing at home or taking it to Luminous, recording there down the street in Addison, it's a very fine balance. Like the Libra scales, you know what I mean? It's literally completely balanced. Because if you focus on one too much, one's going to suffer. So I try to keep it as evenly as possible. I think that's one of the keys too, is not just balance within yourself, but your tasks, your goals, and what you truly want to do day in and day out. Not being too overcompensated in one area.
That's good.
Is there a particular person who kind of, for lack of a better word, like fostered or fed this entrepreneurial spirit that you got, right? Like, we've all been inspired by somebody or some type of circumstance. There's always some type of stimulating factor, right? Whether it's a person or a situation. So I'm just wondering, where does yours come from?
You can get deep real quick. I love my mom with all my heart, but we had our rifts growing up. She was a single mom raising me up until like 17, 18 years old before she remarried. And I got kicked out of the house at like 19 years old for just disobeying, being a bad kid, not listening.
First of all, that right there, like,
yeah, being a headache. Exactly.
I don't even see that out of you.
Yeah.
You're very humbled, or you come across as very humble.
Well, it's 7-8 years of providing for yourself, and kind of building your surroundings and foundation. But it was a wake-up call. I had other family I lived with for a couple months. Then I started the Paso job and was able to provide for myself. But I wasn't living right. I was smoking weed every day and wasn't focused on the future until I got my real estate license and started seeing the money that could be made on the investment side. It just like turned a gear, completely a switch flipped on, and all I wanted to do was just like, I knew I could build that future that I wanted from the music dreams if I had the money to sustain myself on the day-to-day. I could focus on the music how I truly wanted to. So I think that that foundation came from that scenario. Okay. Me and my family were all still close. I still love my mom, but it was just a rift in time that kind of, I would say, caused that immediate spark. And then it's just all determination and honestly a little bit of ego, probably, of not wanting to be a failure and just wanting to prove everybody and myself that I could become everything I wanted.
So you had this rift with you and your mom. You're out kind of on your own for a couple of months, living with family. You get the job at Paso. You realize, look, I got to get serious about my shit. You know what I mean? And then the second half of our podcast is called The Lab, right? TheVisionLab. And so take me into those deep, dark moments when you're in the lab. What does that process look like you, whether it's creating, studying, learning about real estate, whatever you want to get your hands in?
I'll start with the real estate side because the business is always fluctuating. Everything is. I mean, you guys know that as real estate investors, there's going to be months that are great. There's going to be weeks that make you question what you're doing. But I think seeing the results of the hard work consistently pay off over and over through time, seeing it all the way through, I think that truly helps when you hit those ruts as well. Because you may hit a week or two, and you're like, what am I doing? But you know in your mind, hey, I've been here before. Just keep pushing. Something's going to turn. And on the music side, it's always passion. There's no true, there's goals I set for myself, but there's no true like do or die thing for me. It's completely out of passion. I feel like if you just try to do it for money or for fame or clout, whatever it may be, you're never truly going to be successful. You may be industry successful because they want that. They want something that they can push. They want a promotion package. But I think if you're truly doing it for the love of it, that's all it's ever going to be about. As the business, though, it's straight kill kill. You got to focus. You got to go after what you want, because there's no. Everybody gets the same 24 hours at the end of the day.
We're going to dive a little bit deeper into that, but a word from our sponsor.
Hey everyone, Edwina Brown here, owner-operator of Blowing Smoke Cigar Lounge. We're located at 1604 North Interstate 35E in Lancaster, Texas. We would love for you to come see us. We stand on the 3 C's, which are cigars, our community, and our culture. Cigars, we have over 300 SKUs in our humidor, and it's still growing. Come check it out, a massive humidor. We also love our culture here, which we're about customer service, as well as community, which is why we're excited to partner with the TheVisionLab podcast. So come check us out.
Thank you again so much, EB. We appreciate all your love and support. You know, if you need anything from us, just pick up the phone. So we're talking about balance and really like diving into things, you know, our lab, if you will. When it comes to, I guess, can we start with the real estate stuff, right?
Yeah, I think so, man.
So let's just start with the real estate side of things, right? What does your personal lab look like, right? Like, you're a co-owner of 2 companies. You've got a lending side, you've got an investment side. Like, what does going into your lab look like on a daily basis?
So we've got probably about 6 or 7 completely virtual agents that we've actually just recently cut down on, because that marketing avenue just wasn't working like it used to. There's a lot of laws in place now that prevent automatic texts and cold calls and things that go out of that nature. So we've got 2 or 3 agents in office. Acquisitions, they primarily focus on getting properties under contract. I did that for about 5 years. So it's
we're talking wholesaling.
wholesaling, but to keep for our own portfolio now. We were wholesaling primarily for 2 or 3 years, but
Gotcha.
everybody's doing it now. Marketing is oversaturated.
Well, then sometimes you come up on something, you're like, I don't want anybody to have this. I want
Exactly.
this for myself.
Exactly, and that's what we've been doing. We've been taking down a lot of those, building up the rental portfolio mostly. We're wanting to get into commercial this year, because that's really where the consolidated money is going to be moving forward, especially DFW and new builds. But as for right now, we're building our portfolio. Wholesale was about 75% of the income for the past 2 or 3 years, but we've cut that down. The expectation is going to be 33% this year for wholesale. It's going to be 33% for the lending company, and we've actually partnered with a roofing company as well. So when these hailstorms hit, our acquisition agents, they hop on the phones. We send out adjusters. It's all covered through insurance. They just got to set the appointment, and we get a percentage of the roof job. Strictly commercial roofs, 500,000 or more.
Nice.
So if you can get 10 of those in a quarter, that pays for all your marketing costs on the real estate side, and then pretty much everything else is passive after that.
So gravy after that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you're in the lab and you are focusing on like, hey, 2022, we want to reduce this down because the marketing isn't working the way it used to work. Markets change. We totally get that. But where are you learning all this information? Do you have mentors? Are you just researching? Like, where does all this come from?
So the 2 other partners in the company, that they actually started the company back in 2018 before I was coming into them as an acquisitions agent, and they saw what I could do kind of within the company and brought me up to the role of basically bringing in other people, hiring, firing, and maintaining the acquisition side. But it's more from trial and error. The marketing on the real estate side is completely, you're almost taking a blind guess. I mean, you have your analytics, we have KPIs, we track everything, track every dollar that we spend, but it changes every year. Last year, Text Blast was probably 80 to 90% of all our deals. This year, it's completely cold calling. So it's actual agents in office calling all of these leads. If you want to start from the very beginning, we pay for lists of data, absentee owners, 30% equity. Then we will skip trace those, feed them to our cold callers. They'll kind of proof it, send it to our acquisition agents in-house. If it's a deal they offer, we get it under contract. We try to close within like 2 weeks. Usually we're taking it down. If it's out of town or in a weird city, we'll wholesale it to other investors. But it's really hit or miss these days, man.
Yeah,
it really is.
Market is absolutely crazy. I mean, he's talking your language right now.
Oh, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about it off camera and whatnot, but yeah, it's the word he uses is oversaturated, right? And so, I'm on a different end of it, right? I'm on as you'll find out, I'm on the ground floor of things. And so, hey, you made a great point, like, as far as the longevity of it is, like, wholesale is a good kickstart, but when you're talking about passive income or residual income and long-term wealth building and things like that, there's that wholesale arm it's only, if you're smart, you use it just to kickstart to get you into the long-term game, especially now with the market being oversaturated. Everybody, like, the pool's crowded when it comes to the wholesale arm of things. So that being said, you've got a lending company. So for those who are just not familiar with lending, right? I know it's way more than, hey, I make this amount. How much can I qualify for a loan on my house, right? Kind of give me some of the ins and outs of what you do on that on a daily basis.
So these are completely business purpose real estate based loans. So they're non-QM. They're not mortgage based. They're not. Some of them are backed by Fannie Mae. They're sold in secondary markets, but this is primarily focused for real estate investors. So if you got a rental property, maybe you're in a short-term investor loan, high interest, ridiculous percentages, a hard money shark basically. We will refi those loans into long-term debt, usually 30-year refis, help you cash out around 75-80% of the value. Pull that money out and you can use it for other real estate ventures. You do usually have to write a letter stating that it is being used for other real estate.
Hit, rinse, and repeat.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the main focus. I've been doing a lot of multifamilies. So a lot of investors are doing short-term bridge loans into a long-term refinance after they value add the property. Usually get rent rates up or remodel it, but that's where our bread and butter is right now. And we get points off of those, of each loan. But we're using it for our own products as well. So we're refining all of our own houses, making sure that we're not over leveraged. We try to keep our debt around 60-65% of the value because the market will eventually balance.
Yeah.
It's not going to go up forever. So we're playing it smart, but take advantage of the money while it's cheap.
Translation, he's keeping the money in-house a couple of times before it goes out the door. For those of you not paying attention.
And you got to pay yourself out of the LLC, so it's it's all taxes.
100%.
It's a headache at the end of the day sometimes.
Man, I'm telling you, bro. Like it's really cool to see the growth that you've had, to become like this guy that understands business, right? Mm-hmm. Do you have any business mentors?
Other than the two partners, we had a really great mentor in Phoenix. He was primarily wholesale. His name's Carlos Reyes. I know y'all know.
You do know that Carlos was on our show.
Carlos Reyes was
Yeah,
on?
we had him on the show.
Really?
We
Shout
first
out to
got started.
Carlos.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Big shout out to Carlos.
Carlos
I
is
think
awesome.
it's episode 33, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
he's like 20s or 30s. Yeah,
That's
very
awesome.
early, and we had him on. I remember he called me
It's
like,
insane.
this is back in the days we were first getting off the
Yeah.
ground, and so we both had our day jobs, and it was
Easier.
something for us to be on the phone at 2-3 o'clock in the morning going over stuff. And he's like, I found this dude named Carlos Reyes.
Yep.
He's like, we got to get him on the show. And lo and behold, we got him on the show, and he's been great ever since we met
It's
him.
insane.
So, yeah.
Easier to access back then, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely was easier
No,
to access
actually,
back
we
then.
hit him up. We sent him
We sent him some sticks.
some
Okay.
sticks, a
Yep.
5-pack
Yep.
of some cigars.
Shout out to the guy's definition.
I can reach out to Carlos because I
Yeah.
know he was coming down for the Cowboys games. He's got
Yeah.
some business that he does here
Yep.
pretty frequently. But yeah,
So we've known him for, well, my partners knew him before I did. They actually introduced me when I was working acquisitions for them. And they just laid out a complete implementation of what the wholesale business should be. And they primarily were focusing on acquiring commercial. This was about 4 years ago, before they were well known. Actually, they're still well known, but just to see what they did with all those different companies, their faith primarily focused in that, trying to maintain that with the business, which is a very delicate balance. I thought was inspirational, and I took a lot of the stuff I learned from them and just applied it to my own life in the business as well. So I would say Carlos Reyes and that the All-In movement, they were just
All
probably
In.
the biggest inspiration at the time.
no, they're fire. You mentioned this before, and kind of a little bit just now. When you hit that sticking point, and we've all been there, right? Whether it's in your personal life, in your professional life, spiritual, whatever it is. How would our visionaries, and those are the people that watch our show, shout out to all our visionaries, but how do they move beyond or move through that?
As far as the ruts, or
The ruts, the
ruts,
trials, the tribulations, when you just feel like there's a dark cloud over you constantly.
Or the moments when you do question yourself.
So those, I would say the first one is the worst. First is always the worst because you've probably never been there, depending on what industry you're in. But once you get past that first one, I think there's a balance. I'll say it. You're gonna hear it over and over. But I try to, if I have stress or anxiety, I'll go hit the gym. I'll try to work on music. I'll try to focus on something outside of the business, completely related. I feel like if you take yourself out of the perspective of the tunnel vision that you're stuck in, it'll help a lot because when you come back to it, you're on a fresh thinking pattern of it. You're not stuck on what was keeping you held up.
Yeah.
And if you have that on top of your faith, on top of your work ethic, it's going to get you through anything. You'll never have longer than a couple weeks in a rut.
Yeah.
3 sleeps, wake up.
I
72
like
hours,
it.
you're good.
3 sleeps.
3 sleeps.
I
I
like
know
it.
what language you're talking about.
Yep. 3 sleeps, man.
So let's switch into music.
Okay.
What type of music are you doing now, Matthew?
Apple classifies it as R&B.
Okay.
What do you classify it as?
It's kind of like alternative, I think, in a sense,
Ooh.
because there's a lot of different sounds and tracks I'll use. There's different producers that I'll use. Honestly, if I hear a track, I'll write a whole song to it, and then I'll go punch it out the next day. And then it's just mixing and mastering after that. But I feel like putting a genre on it kind of limits what it is.
And
to an
don't take
aspect.
offense to this, right? But I've only heard the one song.
Okay.
Right? But to me, that was kind of Drake-ish. I
No,
like it.
there's nothing wrong with that.
I like it, and I mean
that is. I've been listening to Drake since 2008, 9.
Yeah.
I think "Successful" was the first song I heard, and
Yeah.
that's one of those moments in my life that clicked. I was like, it was everything he was rapping about, right? But it was me wanting more for my life at that moment. I lived in China for a couple months during a program for a summer, and a song "Dreams Money Can Buy" came on.
Okay.
It didn't make the album. It was one of Drake's songs, and it was on repeat for 30 days. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of that vision that I put in place coming back to that last year before I was back here in the States, it helped implement like a huge foundation for the music that I wanted to make as well, on top of
sure.
the life that I wanted to leave. So
what
it's
are
funny.
what are you communicating to your audience, to your listeners through your tracks?
I would say freedom of expression.
Okay.
A lot of the stuff I wrote is either what I'm feeling at the time, if I'm stuck in something, sometimes relationship based, sometimes the life I want to live. A lot of it's painting a picture that I want to create, and I'm visually saying it by speaking it as
Right.
well. I'm creating that life through the song, and that 1 a.m. one was funny because that one was more of the commercial push, for the Spotify and Pandora ads. But there's a song on there. There's a third one on there. It's called "Donde Está Luna," and that's the one I would probably relate it to the most on the album as far as emotionally balanced, the music itself, and the sound that I wanted to go for. And it's funny that you said Drake though, because it's
I mean,
that's what Aaron said
I've
the
only-
first time we heard it as
yeah.
well. So
See, Aaron knows.
Yeah.
But again, I only have 1 a.m.
yeah,
To go off
absolutely.
of. But what's the name of the album?
The whole EP was the After Party,
The After Party.
and then we're working on the next project right now, Untitled right now, but it's coming in March.
That's dope.
yeah.
That's dope.
When you go into the lab musically, like you said, next title of the album is we're untitled at the moment.
Yes.
Like, do you set? Because you strike me as somebody who's very
Balanced.
I ain't balanced, organized is the word I'm getting. So you strike me as somebody who's very organized. So do you already have it mapped out in your head? Like, okay, I want this project to be done by date XYZ, and then I'm going to do all the mixing. Like,
Always.
is that already mapped out?
Always, and it never ever happens on time.
Never,
Ever.
ever.
Just like this
Just
plan.
like
This is probably
real
supposed to
estate.
come out on. There's probably a certain date this is supposed to come out. It'll probably come out a week later or something. You know what I mean? It's
I
just,
do my best to stick to schedule. He can tell you that.
I do as well.
Although he
I do as
does
well.
his best to throw me off from time to
The
time.
more people you bring into the camp, whether it's producers or mastering studios, it's up in the air. It's on their schedule. But I'm very much a harper of being on time for everything. So it drives me crazy when things aren't on time. So
Facts.
those
It's
are
like
some of
building a
those
house,
moments.
cuh.
Yeah,
Don't even get me started.
even worse.
Right now.
Even worse.
Hey,
man.
we all speak the same
You'll be
language
3
on
months
that.
behind on a house sometimes.
Oh,
That'll have
man.
you sweating, having
Please
nightmares.
believe. We know. Unfortunately, we do know.
Yeah.
But it's going to work out for the better, though.
Yeah,
We're lucky
Absolutely.
enough to say that.
absolutely.
So as we kind of push the ball forward, right? When I say the word vision, what's the first thing that comes to your
Hold
head?
on, real quick. Sometimes we are just right there, bro.
Oh, come on,
'Cause
man.
That was literally what I was going to
We've
ask.
done this for a while.
Shout out to you.
It's wavelength.
Yeah.
It's wavelength. Synchronicities. Manifestation. Vision for sure. I'll repeat mantras in my head sometimes, especially in the shower. You've heard of cold showers. I really do it. It helps with like anxiety, stress relief. Last minute of the shower, just crank it as cold as you can, and I'll just focus on everything I want that day. Specifically that day.
Wow.
I'll focus on what I want that day. And there's a couple things I'll say and repeat. I'll say a couple words repetitively, but I think that's a huge factor for me because it sets the tone no matter what else I was thinking about when I wake up or when I'm going to sleep. It always ends with some kind of gratefulness or manifestation for what I want in the future.
So manifestation has been a buzzword
Yep.
For about 5-6 years. I get it, right? And that's cool, but it doesn't come without the work,
Yeah,
you know.
Absolutely.
But I want to talk about energy. So we threw the word out, vision, right? I'm really big on energy.
Come.
And we've talked about this on the show in the past, energy vampires and being around people that just suck the energy out of you,
Yep.
right? And so I've really worked pretty diligently at getting those type of people not necessarily getting rid of them, but making sure I minimize my time in front of them. But when I say energy, what does that mean to you, or how do you interpret that?
I treat energy as a creation aspect.
Okay.
I like to use it for a lot of the times motivation, if possible. Just when it comes to, I try to motivate other people by consistently doing what I do at a high level, and not even in a motivational way of like telling them what to do, but just leading by example. I feel like that's a really great energy to have, that leadership energy, on top of just maintaining a high positive energy, especially when things are negative. It may sound redundant, but usually what you're thinking about or what you focus on is going to expand no matter what. And so if you're focusing on negative things, it may not happen, but your mindset's going to stay that way. So if you can shift to something, even if you're not right in that moment, something higher than yourself, then you're more than likely going to have a better outcome.
When did this mentality or this mindset start to be who you are? Not necessarily like, in 2016,
Yeah.
but like when did this all kind of start to come to fruition?
I would say when I was brought into this company and I started building other agents around me, I saw how much knowledge I could retain in real estate and how they didn't know as much coming in, and seeing them grow kind of like amplified me and what I wanted to do. As far as the music thing, it's always been there, but that aspect about 3 years ago and just kicking that into full gear, doing it day in and day out and seeing people grow. You see people fail and fall off, but the ones that grow and really make it inspires you to keep going. Because whether they stayed with the company or they went and did their own thing, they learned enough to be able to provide for themselves. And I think that's bigger than, just making money for yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You said it's Renaissance man. I like the fact that like he's conscious enough, like, okay, I work on one end, I'm knee deep in real estate and all different levels of it, and like you said, it's the energy of it all. Like, we're all in real estate, so you there are waves. Like, it's just it's the nature of the beast.
Absolutely.
And I agree with you 100%. Like, okay, stuff happens. Okay, acknowledge it. Take 5 minutes. Okay, this sucks, or I hate the fact this happened. Okay, but now what are we gonna do?
Yep.
Like, what's our reaction ultimately going to be? Are we going to pick the ball up and keep pushing forward, or are we going to sit there and wallow in it and be upset and complain and bitch and moan about it?
Yep.
So, as I think about this thing on a grander scale, right? What is one nugget, your favorite word? What is one nugget you would give to anybody who's hearing you, seeing you for the first time when it comes to, I don't even say overcoming adversity, but just something like, hey, keep this in your back pocket for whenever shit hits the fan.
I think I've said it 3 times, unfortunately, already.
Say it again for the people in the back.
It's that work ethic. It's the work ethic. And I know it's unfortunate that you got to sometimes drown yourself out. Sometimes there's things you're going to be going through emotionally, maybe even physically. But if you can just focus on that one thing that you really want, take yourself out of it if you need to for a little bit to reframe. But if you can focus on that day in and day out, even if you're in a rut, it always turns. It always turns, no matter what. From my personal experience, it's never lasted more than a couple weeks, even maybe a couple months. Something always turns for your favor. If you've got good intentions and you're doing good business, even if things aren't going the way you want, they'll eventually turn if you're calculated and smart. Don't blindly go invest in things that you don't know about. It's a lot of people hear about ads or hear about wholesale fees and they just want to jump in, but it's a grind, And I think if you stay true to that, then you're going to be successful no matter what it is you're focused on. It doesn't matter.
It's interesting because earlier you talked about, when you're in a rut or you're bogged down, you step away, you work out. So I'm on this run today, right? And, I'm on my weight loss journey, like I said earlier in the show. I appreciate it. Down 40. Got more to go.
Okay.
But I'm running, right? And I'm doing this 2-mile loop today. 2 miles in, it's not a record breaker.
A mile and a half is my max. So.
No, we can get you going. But I've done 2 miles before during this journey, during this process. I've done it in the past, right? I have that memory bank stocked up,
okay.
Right? But I'm on this run today, and I did some sprints yesterday. Some what was it? A half mile, 800s,
okay.
Things like that, repeats. So my legs, they're not tired, but they're it's a day after. You feel me? So I'm on this run, and I'm like, man, I don't feel winded. I don't feel tired, but I'm a little achy. And I was like, man, look, when I get to this mile marker, we're just going to shut it down. I was like, no, F that. You know what I mean? We're going to keep going. And so what I did is I changed my thought process and just started playing these mental games with myself where now I'm just looking at, instead of the next mile, right? And again, it's not a long distance. I get it. But I just start focusing on, okay, this one particular song that I'm listening to while I'm running. Let's just focus on that. And then all of a sudden you're a quarter mile closer, right? And then another song comes on, and then you start to think, okay, what do I need to do on my day-to-day task? Like, am I done? Obviously, I was thinking about questions to talk to you about tonight, things like that. And then before you know it, you're done, right? Or you've gone through that really tough spot, and now you're just back to being normal. You can finish the run. And so my point in this personal anecdote is to really make an analogy of whatever it is that you're going through, right? Keep going. Absolutely. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Push through the pain, push through the aches, push through the tiredness or whatever it is. And if you just keep going, you'll get there. Yeah. And that's what I hear a lot of you saying. And so, I again, tip my hat off to you
it's
just
for
experience.
You have to experience it yourself. You
got to go through it.
It sounds redundant if you're just hearing it until you experience it, but there's healthy distractions. There's healthy distractions in working out and business. And as long as you can get to that next increment or that next goal that you're at, whatever it takes to get there, mentally, to fight past that, do it.
So we're talking success, right? What is your biggest driver?
I don't have as much money as I want yet. I know that's very facetious in the terms of this.
No, it's good. Like, it's a target, right?
Yeah.
Like I just told you, I ran my 2 miles, and that was the target, right? For right now. But is there a specific number that we're trying to hit, or is it just the feeling of the lack of worry?
Hold on, before you answer that, so I've heard multiple people say success is when you wake up in the morning, you realize I can do what I want to do today, when I want to do it, how I want to do it, with who I want to do it. And so, before you shoot a number out, is it something along those lines, or is there an imaginary number like that?
It's right in between those. There's not an exact number. There is a passive income number that I want per month, strictly for myself. But on the side of balancing work and music, I want enough to where I can fund my own distribution, my own labels, which I'm already doing as an independent artist. But to be able to do that for other artists that are up and coming, I want to really harp on that and be able to focus on that completely aside from real estate. I want that to run completely on its own without me even have to step in. And I think if I can wake up and do anything I want every single day, that is financial freedom. I'm pretty much there. We're booking it. We're going to Aspen at the end of this week. We planned that like a week ago. And so those kind of freedoms weren't possible like 3 or 4 years ago. You really do have to build to get to that point, but I'm still not satisfied with where I want to be. And I think it's the passive amount, the income I want per month on top of a set number to be able to have that label and record company be successful on its own as well. It's mental though.
So can the average person who wants to get involved in wholesaling or real estate or what have you, given today's market, how do they become successful with inflation being real, with property values being overly inflated, right? In a saturated market. So here we are, March of 2022.
Yeah.
How do we do this? How do they jump in?
I started with bandit signs, and they probably don't work anymore, but I printed out maybe 100 signs. I just put my cell phone number on there. I went and hung them up around the TCU area in Fort Worth. I got a deal. First deal was like $7,500. That's plenty of money for marketing right there. If you dump it all back and don't go spend it, don't go buy a new car.
Reinvest in yourself.
Reinvest it straight back into marketing. You might lose half that money, but maybe you'll get one more deal and you'll get more net. There's stepping stones. And you said it great when you said wholesaling it should be a stepping stone. It's a great way to generate some liquidity, but it's not an end game. And I think we thought it could be an end game for the first couple of years because of the amount of money we were bringing in.
And the effort on it, that's why people love it so much. Like it doesn't, once you get some under contract, you got your infrastructure, right? Like it doesn't require, as you call it, it's not that heavy of a lift, but it burns out if you're not, it burns out pretty quickly if you're not doing it right.
Extremely quickly. I think we spend $20,000 or $25,000 a month in marketing through the company. And some months we don't even make 25, but then the next month 150 or 175 might roll in from other closings from fix and flips or from a random wholesale that got assigned. So you're going to have those months where you think you're doing everything wrong, but as long as you have a pipeline built, which takes some time to get there, It takes a team to get there. It's very hard to run that business by yourself, to scale it rather. But once you get to that point and others will see you being successful, they're going to want to join you. They're going to ask questions. That's when you bring them in, coach them, mentor, and then they work as your marketing almost, because they might bring you a deal. They have no idea what to do with it. Maybe you partner with them on a flip. Maybe you help them wholesale it. But I think the networking is almost as big as the actual marketing for the business as well.
Amen to that. Living proof.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
P, I think it's time to land the plane.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you know, finish off every show with some of these questions, right? First one is you, and there's a round table very similar to this one, although it's probably bigger. You know, food, cigars, all the good stuff, right? You get 5 other seats at the table. It can be anybody you want. The only stipulation is that you can't have whatever religious entity you believe in. Outside of that, dead or alive, who do you want your table?
Anybody in the world?
Anybody. No right or
Really?
wrong answers. Just we ask everybody.
Dead or alive?
Dead or alive? Okay. That's a great question. I'm going to have the day one homie with me over there for sure.
Right. So
Aaron,
we got
shout out to
that.
Aaron.
That's for a balance of the mental and to remind myself of where I came from. I would say the next, sorry for being basic on this one, it would be Drake, Aubrey Graham, just because I saw what he built
See?
from an online marketing. It's not even about the music or the hype. It's what he built from MySpace, and what he built from like marketing himself through the avenue to be found by someone in Houston by the name of Joss Prince, who introduced him to Lil Wayne and then got him connected on that scale to where he blew up. I would love to learn the business aspect of that. A lot of people come in and they fall off in the music industry, and I think that's true longevity. Business-wise, I'm going to go with, sorry for the old crocodile, but Warren Buffett.
Can't go wrong
Just
with the
because
billionaire.
a huge,
Who wouldn't want to have him at their table?
a huge portion of his portfolio is real estate. Privately owned in different sectors, but it's real estate. Next, no religious org. Okay.
Can't be Jesus.
Yeah.
God.
No, I know. We're at 3 right now. I would say I would completely surround it with musical people, honestly. The business one would just be for introspect. The next one, dead, and only because I would love to pick the brain of someone like Elvis Presley,
Okay.
who went on an enormous, Vegas run, went on like almost 300 consecutive shows. Clearly that pushed him to the breaking point. But I would love to learn the inner workings of how you maintain that, because that's true work ethic at the end of the day. Whether it was, influenced by amphetamines and alcohol, whatever it was, he was still performing at a high level consistently. Really just high level achievers. And I would love also to meet someone that came up supposedly from the ground up. I don't believe it. And this is basic as well, but Jeff Bezos, he had family money before. Of course, he had loans that were given to him. I don't think the company was started in the garage, but
But the
to
vision
scale-
behind what he wanted to do,
vision-
though.
The vision.
Yeah.
It's a tie between him and Steve Jobs strictly for the vision. They were so polarizing that maybe I would say Steve Jobs more than Bezos, just because everybody was waiting for that next Apple commercial for a few years. They were waiting on that next whatever was coming out, the new iPhone, the new iPod. They were waiting on that, like salivating. People were salivating over the new products that Apple had, and that company almost got bought out in mid '80s. It almost went completely bankrupt until he came back once they forced him out. So being forced out of your own company, come back and take it to the ground up to being the most profitable company right now, top 3 at least in the world, I think is insane. That's all vision. And that's all vision. Steve
Vision and
Jobs had-
belief, I'm telling you.
All of it.
Real quick before we, I've got a couple more questions I want to ask you.
Absolutely.
Why don't you go ahead and drop your social media handles and anyone that's interested in your music, where they can find it, all that fun stuff.
Yep. Instagram is probably the most common one. It's going to be Mathew. That's the artist name. But Matt Alecam, MATALECAM. It's just the first 3 initials of my name, middle and last. If you search that, you'll find me on everything else. You can look Matthew Campos in Google. FWE Invest will pop up on LinkedIn if you want to go to the real estate side. EquityStrike.com, LendMoreCapital.com, CashOffersDallas.com. We've got a lot of domains.
URLs, yeah, there you go. Got to.
All for the marketing aspects. But shout out to you guys, though, for real, man, for what y'all done here and consistently put this together. It's not easy getting this all together every single day. I saw how hard it was just to shoot a video in 2 days. I can't imagine trying to put this together every single other week. So
We get it done, man.
it's
Because of
impressive.
people like you, man. Like, you're the reason why, we do the show, so that you can educate other people to be successful, right? To find the best version of themselves. And it's the content that you're creating that allows us to put out this type of content. So Let me ask you this, because you already asked him. Did you ask him what the long-term vision was? Okay. What is the What's the long-term vision for one Matthew?
Projecting, manifesting. One of the most renowned musical artists in the world. Whether it's performance, whether it's writing, whether it's production, just being involved and truly doing something that I love every single day. I love real estate. I love business. It keeps me sharp. But I want that to be self-sustaining. And we're building that up to where it is right now, hiring the right people, bringing on the right team members that can sustain a company if you're not there. But being one of the biggest music artists in the world is huge to me. And I feel like it's a lot more easily accomplished these days than it was 10 years ago.
You have more outlets.
You have more outlets.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'd love to know if you haven't heard this question. So if you were a book, what would be the title of your book?
48 Laws of Power.
No. Man, that's a freaking encyclopedia right there.
It's borderline sociopathic,
Golly.
but there's some things in there that are very powerful. Just to moving past a lot of those mental blocks that you mentioned. A lot of things are emotional, whether you know it or not. Your brain is full of hormones and chemicals. Self-doubt it's chemically. Sometimes you're imbalanced, sometimes you're not. It goes into what you put in your body as well. So it's just, there's a lot of factors. But that's a great book to almost remain stoic. And The Daily Stoic's a great one as well. I read that one. That's an everyday for us in the office. We read it before, right after our team meetings. And that's a good one it's a good reminder. This world's been here for a long time. You get a very short amount of time to do what you want with it. How you want to be remembered is going to be mostly based on your day-to-day and the actions that you put into the world. So I think those are a good one.
So good. All right. So in case you didn't know, we have a magical time machine here in the lab. Okay. What advice would Matthew be giving himself from 5 years ago?
5. Okay. 22 years old, just got my real estate license. Stay out of residential, just go straight for the investment. It's going to be cutthroat. You're going to get your feelings hurt pretty early, but you're going to make a lot more money, and you're going to be a lot further than you would be now because you learned it sooner. Also, stop smoking weed sooner.
Go to gummies.
The gummies are okay. I'm fine. I don't disown it, but this is just in case my parents are watching.
There you go.
But
all right,
that would be
so we're going to make you a little bit older. Okay, so about 32, 33 years old at this point. What is the older version of Matthew? What advice is he giving you today?
Don't lose the work ethic. Don't lose the passion for music, no matter what happens. Keep true to yourself. Don't lose yourself along that journey. I feel like a lot of people can. I've seen people exposed to fame, seen people exposed to a lot of money, and it changes them. They think they're something they're not, or they'll become something they're not, and more often times than not, they'll lose it. Maybe not yet, but 5 years down the road, it is possible, and so stay true to yourself. That's what I would tell myself in 3 years.
That's dope.
Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you coming on to the show,
Absolutely.
my man. Like I said, it's cosmic.
Yeah.
God ordained. I got a lot of nuggets out of it. And so to each one of our visionaries that are tuning in to the show, thank you so much for your love and support. If you like the video, go ahead and make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Remember, each one of our guests are dropping nuggets of wisdom here on the Trail of Life. Ultimately, my friends, it's up to you to pick them up.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ryan Mosley. He is Ryan Cuffey. Thank you again to our guest, Matthew Campos.
Thank you so much.
And we will see you guys next week on another great episode of the Vision Lab podcast.
Blessings.